Welcome to BigONE Weekly News Update. I'm Mia. The final week of October is shaping up to be a defining moment for global markets. With major central banks set to announce rate decisions and tech giants releasing earnings, investors are bracing for what analysts are calling a super week for both monetary policy and corporate performance. Crypto market rebounds strongly. After weeks of volatility, the cryptocurrency market staged a solid recovery in the 40th week of 2025. Bitcoin, BTC, rose 5.4%, closing at around $114,550, while Ethereum, ETH, gained 4.4% to finish near $4,150. Solana, SOL, outperformed with a 6.5% weekly increase, breaking past the $200 mark. Binance Coin, BNB, climbed 2.6% to $1,140, supported by news that its founder, Changpeng Zhao, CZ, received a pardon from U.S. President Donald Trump. The rebound in crypto mirrored a broader upswing in global sentiment as optimism grew over improving macroeconomic conditions and easing geopolitical tension. Global markets hit record highs. Global equity markets strengthened on growing confidence in U.S. corporate earnings and signs of progress in diplomatic relations between China and the United States. Confirmation that both nations' leaders will meet at the APEC summit in South Korea on Thursday boosted risk appetite worldwide. In the U.S., the S&P 500 and NASDAQ both reached fresh record highs, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average surpassed 47,000 points for the first time in history. Europe's Stoxx 600 index also gained 1.68% for the week. Meanwhile, U.S. core CPI data showed inflation slowing in September, leading Treasury yields to fall sharply. In contrast, gold prices slipped 2.25%, reflecting investors' pivot toward risk assets. Super week for markets, central banks and tech giants in focus. This week marks a convergence of pivotal events. The Federal Reserve, Bank of Japan, European Central Bank, and Bank of Canada will all release interest rate decisions. Among the U.S. tech, Magnificent Seven, Google, Alphabet, Meta, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft are scheduled to report quarterly earnings. The Fed's preferred inflation gauge, the Personal Consumption Expenditures (PCE) price index, will also be released. Market participants are also closely watching for potential progress in China, U.S. tariff negotiations, as any signs of easing trade tensions could further fuel risk appetite. Fed policy outlook, end of quantitative tightening in sight. The Federal Reserve's upcoming policy meeting is the centerpiece of this week's agenda. Markets broadly expect a 25 basis point rate cut, but attention is turning toward a potentially bigger shift, whether the Fed will end its quantitative tightening (QT) program earlier than expected. Since mid-2022, the Fed has been reducing its balance sheet to tighten liquidity, while the U.S. Treasury offsets some of this impact through heavy issuance of short-term bills. However, with the reverse repo facility now nearly exhausted, signs of stress are emerging in short-term funding markets. One notable signal has been the increased use of the Fed's standing repo facility outside of typical quarter-end periods, suggesting liquidity strains. Fed Chair Jerome Powell acknowledged these pressures in mid-October, hinting that the central bank could soon bring QT to an end. Traditionally, such policy adjustments are discussed in October and announced in December, but analysts now believe the Fed could move faster, possibly signaling the end of QT this Wednesday. Liquidity turning point, from tightening to neutral. While the end of balance sheet reduction would not constitute a large-scale stimulus, it would mark a significant shift in liquidity conditions, from contraction to neutrality, and eventually toward gradual expansion. Analysts view this as an important inflection point for risk assets, especially cryptocurrencies and equities, which have been sensitive to global liquidity dynamics throughout 2025. The week ahead, events to watch. Key macroeconomic data: U.S. durable goods orders, FOMC rate decision, Federal Reserve, Bank of Japan rate decision, U.S. advanced GDP, U.S. core PCE price index, major earnings reports, Microsoft, Alphabet, Google, Meta Platforms, Coinbase Global, Apple, crypto highlights, Jupiter, JP, token unlock, 53.47 million, immutable, IMX, token unlock, 24.52 million. With macroeconomic policy, corporate earnings, and geopolitical diplomacy all converging in 1 week, markets are poised for heightened volatility. A dovish pivot from the Fed or clear progress in U.S. China talks could extend the recent rally, while any surprises from earnings or central bank meetings may test investor confidence. Join BigONE today and take advantage of the growing cryptocurrency market.